In the summer of 1975, I, Anna Miller, lived in Riverfield, a remote village nestled in the rolling hills of rural China. It was a place where time seemed frozen, where the rhythms of life revolved around the harvest, the clucking of chickens, and the weight of tradition. The household registration system, or hukou, tethered us to the land, dictating where we could live, work, or marry. Marriages were arranged by parents and matchmakers, sealed with banquets rather than legal papers, and women were expected to serve their families without question. Into this insular world came Chen, a city youth sent to Riverfield as part of the government's Up to the Mountains and Down to the Countryside movement, a program that dispatched urban students to rural areas to bridge the gap between city and countryside. Tall, with sharp features and a quiet confidence, Jason stood out like a star in the village's dim sky. When his eyes met mine at the market, I felt a spark I couldn't name. He pursued me for 3 years, bringing me small gifts, wildflowers, a loaf of city bread, and helping with chores like carrying firewood. His persistence was a whisper of something new beyond the village's rigid rules. But Riverfield's gossip was relentless. The aunties, their voices sharp as sickles, whispered that city men were shallow, unreliable players who toyed with village girls. "He's too handsome, Anna," they warned. "He'll leave you once he's back in the city." My parents, Robert and Linda Miller, soaked up these rumors like parched soil. They distrusted Jason's urban polish, fearing he'd abandon me for a city life I could never follow. Instead, they championed Jacob Walker, a rugged villager with deep-set eyes and a temper as quick as a storm. "Jacob's honest, strong," my father said, his voice firm. "He'll provide a stable life." My mother nodded, adding that the Walkers are respected and have a 3-story brick house. I trusted their judgment, believing they wanted the best for me. So, when they arranged my marriage to Jacob, I swallowed my doubts, letting Jason's flowers wilt in my memory. The truth unraveled like a torn seam. I learned too late that Jacob had always loved my younger sister, Emily. With her coy smiles and fluttering lashes, she had charmed him while secretly plotting her escape to the city. My parents, complicit in her scheme, offered me to Jacob as a substitute, a pawn to secure Emily's freedom. Jacob accepted, but his heart remained with her. He locked me in our home, a cramped, dim space that smelled of damp wood and despair. I became a machine for bearing children, my days a blur of cooking, cleaning, and enduring his cold indifference. Meanwhile, Emily married Jason and followed him to the city, where she lived as a pampered wife, her letters boasting of modern comforts I could only imagine. The final betrayal came during my labor with Jacob's child. Pain tore through me, each contraction a knife. I begged to be taken to the hospital, my voice hoarse, my hands clutching the blood-soaked sheets. Jacob stood by, unmoved, while Emily, visiting from the city, watched with icy eyes. "You made me live like a widow," she hissed, her pretty dress stark against the filthy room. "You deserve this." She revealed the truth. She and Jacob had conspired to give me to him, ensuring she could marry Jason without the burden of childbirth. Holding her tenderly, Jacob said, "I promised she'd never suffer like you." My parents, off collecting grain, didn't come. Emily's cold smile was the last thing I saw as my life drained away. In that moment, a desperate wish seared me, to undo this betrayal and reclaim my life. The world went dark, but my soul flared with a fierce resolve, as if the universe heard my plea and granted me a second chance. The summer sun filtered through the cracked wooden shutters of our family's modest home in Riverfield Village, casting thin beams across the rough-hewn table where we sat. It was 1975, and the weight of my past life's betrayal pressed against my chest, as vivid as the scent of millet porridge steaming before me. I, Anna Miller, had died bleeding out in a filthy bed, betrayed by my sister, Emily, and my husband, Jacob Walker, who conspired to trap me while Emily fled to the city with Chen. My parents, Robert and Linda Miller, had orchestrated it all, prioritizing Emily's dreams over my life. Yet, by some miracle born of my dying wish for justice, I had awakened in my body on the morning before my doomed marriage to Jacob, my heart pounding with a resolve to rewrite my fate. My father, Robert, a wiry man with calloused hands from years in the fields, sat at the head of the table, his face etched with the authority of a village mediator. My mother, Linda, had her hair tied back in a faded scarf and ladled porridge into chipped bowls. Her movements were brisk, but her eyes were darting with worry. Emily, my younger sister, perched beside me, her delicate features framed by a braid, her smile as sweet as the wild honey she loved. To an outsider, we were a picture of rural harmony, a family bound by love and duty in a China where the hukou system locked us to our village, where marriages were sealed by parental decrees and betrothal gifts, not love. But I saw through their facade. Emily's soft voice, once a comfort, now echoed her cruel taunts from my past. You deserve this. My parents' gentle nudges toward Jacob hid their plot to keep me caged for their convenience. The Walkers are a fine family, Robert said, his voice firm but tinged with impatience. We've accepted their betrothal gift, 50 yuan and 3 packets of candy. Jacob Strong owns a brick house. You'll want for nothing. He leaned forward, his eyes searching mine, expecting the obedient daughter who always bowed to his will. In my past life, I had nodded, swayed by his promises of stability and the village's whispers that city men like Jason were unreliable. Now, those words tasted like ash. Jacob's strength had meant confinement, his house a prison. The betrothal gift was a bribe to sell me into misery while Emily chased Jason's city life. Linda set a bowl before me, her hand lingering on my shoulder. Sweetheart, Jacob's honest. She said he'll treat you well, her tone coaxing, as if soothing a child. I stared at the porridge, its steam curling like the memories of my blood-soaked deathbed, where she hadn't come to save me. Her warmth was a lie, a mask for her plan to keep me close, laboring for their needs while Emily basked in freedom. I clenched my spoon, the metal biting into my palm, anchoring me to this second chance. Emily tilted her head, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Sis, Jacob might look fierce, but he's gentle inside, she said, her voice lilting. You'll be happy and you'll stay near us. Her words, so convincing in my past life, now rang hollow. I saw the flicker of calculation in her gaze, the same look she wore when she refused me help, sneering as I bled out. She wanted Jacob for herself, yet schemed to pawn him off on me to secure her city escape with Jason. The hypocrisy churned my stomach, but I held my tongue, my mind racing with the knowledge of their betrayal. The room felt smaller, the air thick with their expectations. I had been the dutiful daughter in my past life, molded by Riverfield's rigid traditions and my parents' insistence that a woman's role was to serve. Their voices, the village's gossip, had drowned out my heart, convincing me Jason's love was a fleeting city whim. Now, reborn, I felt the weight of that mistake, the years of pain it cost me. My death had stripped away my naivety, leaving a fierce clarity. I would not repeat my past. I would not let their lies bind me again. I set the spoon down, the clinking sound sharp against the silence. My parents and Emily turned to me, their faces mixed with curiosity and unease. I took a breath, steadying the tremor in my chest, and met their gazes. I said I won't marry Jacob, my voice cold, cutting through the morning's warmth like a blade. The words hung in the air, foreign even to me, a girl who had never defied her family. Robert's face flushed red, his jaw tightened. "Stop this nonsense, Anna," he snapped, slamming his hand on the table, rattling the bowls. "We've pulled strings to secure this match. The Walkers are respected. You'd throw that away?" Linda's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. "Anna, what's gotten into you?" she asked, her voice trembling, as if my refusal unraveled her carefully woven plans. Emily's smile faltered, her fingers twisting the hem of her dress, betraying a flash of fear. They hadn't expected resistance from me, the daughter who always complied, who carried water and mended clothes without complaint. But I was no longer that Anna. The memory of my past life, Jacob's cold grip, Emily's betrayal, my parents' absence, fueled my resolve. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor, and faced them, my heart a drumbeat of defiance. "I won't marry him," I repeated, slower, each word a stone in the wall I built against their control. "You can't make me." Robert's eyes narrowed, and his authority was challenged in a village where the parental word was law. Linda reached for my arm, but I stepped back, out of her grasp. Emily's lips parted, as if to speak, but no words came. The room crackled with tension, their shock a palpable force. I turned and walked to the door, my pulse racing, knowing this moment marked the beginning of my rebellion. I would not be their pawn again. I would find Jason, reclaim my lost love, and break free of Riverfield's chains. The morning air in Riverfield village was thick with the scent of dew-soaked earth, but a storm brewed inside our family's cramped home. It was 1975, and I, Anna Miller, stood at the threshold of our doorway, my heart hammering from the defiance I had just unleashed. Moments ago, I declared that I would not marry Jacob Walker. The rugged villager my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, had chosen to cage me while my sister Emily schemed for city life with Jason Chen. Reborn from a past life of betrayal, where Emily's cold smile watched me bleed out and my parents abandoned me, I saw their love as a lie, a trap woven from tradition and greed. My refusal had stunned them, but the battle was far from over. As I gripped the doorframe, memories of my past life surged, sharp as thorns, urging me to unmask their deceptions. Robert's face was a mask of fury, his voice booming across the room. "Anna, you're throwing away a good life," he shouted, his calloused hands clenched into fists. "The Walker's betrothal gift is sealed, 50 yuan, candy, and a future. Do you know how many girls would beg for this?" His words had crushed me in my past life, painting Jacob as my only path to security in a village bound by the hukou system, where leaving without a marriage or city permit was nearly impossible. Now, I saw his anger for what it was: fear of losing control, of failing to deliver me as a sacrifice to keep Emily's ambitions alive. Linda, her scarf askew, stepped forward, her eyes pleading. "Sweetheart, think of your family," she said, her voice trembling. "Jacob's house is brick and has 3 stories. You'll stay close, care for us when we're old." Her words, once a lullaby, now stung like betrayal. In my past life, she had left me to die, too busy with harvest to save her daughter. Her concern was a ploy, tying me to Riverfield's fields while Emily escaped. I shook my head, my throat tight with the weight of their neglect. Emily, perched at the table, twirled a braid, her lips curving in a practiced smile. "Sis, don't be silly," she said, her tone light but her eyes sharp. "Jacob's perfect for you. He's strong, and I know he'll be kind." Her innocence was a performance, one I had fallen for before. In my past life, her assurances convinced me to accept Jacob, only to learn she loved him, using me to clear her path to Jason. Her betrayal cut deepest. She had watched me die, sneering, "You deserve this." I stared at her, searching for the sister I once adored, but found only a schemer hiding behind a pretty face. The tension snapped when Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out a silver pocket watch, its surface glinting in the sunlight. "Look, Anna," she said, holding it up. "Jason gave this to me. He wants to marry me." Her voice was triumphant, as if the watch proved her worth over mine. My breath caught. In my past life, this same watch had broken me. Emily had shown it, claiming it was Jason's engagement gift, and I, naive, believed Jason had chosen her. That lie pushed me into Jacob's arms, sealing my fate. Now, seeing it again, rage boiled within me. The watch symbolized their deceit, a tool to manipulate my heart. "You're lying," I said, my voice low but steady. Emily's smile faltered, her fingers tightening around the watch. "Jason didn't give that to you." The room stilled, Robert and Linda exchanging glances, their unease palpable. Emily's eyes widened, but she recovered, laughing softly. "Anna, you're jealous," she said. "He gave it to me last week." Her lie was seamless, but I was no longer the gullible girl of my past. I stepped forward, my hand shooting out, and snatched the watch from her grasp. She gasped, stumbling back, her chair scraping the floor. "Anna, what are you doing?" Linda cried, reaching for me, but I dodged, clutching the watch tightly. Its cool metal burned against my palm, a tangible link to Jason's love, stolen by my family's greed. I said, "You've been lying to me," turning to face them all. "You hid Jason's proposal, didn't you? You gave this to Emily to trick me into marrying Jacob." Robert's jaw tightened, his silence a confession. Linda's hands twisted her apron, her eyes darting away. Emily's face flushed, but she said nothing, guilt written in her clenched fists. The truth hit me like a wave. My parents had intercepted Jason's gift, feeding Emily's plan to claim him while binding me to Jacob. In Riverfield, where matchmakers and parental decrees ruled, such deceptions were whispered about but rarely challenged. Yet, I had died because of their lies, my life traded for Emily's city dreams. The pain of that betrayal fueled my courage. "You wanted me to suffer so Emily could have everything," I said, my voice rising, "but I won't let you control me again." I turned and ran, the watch clutched to my chest, my feet pounding the dirt floor. Robert shouted after me, "Anna, come back!" But I didn't stop. The door slammed behind me, and I sprinted into the village, past the fields where women bent over rice paddies, past the gossiping aunties who would soon spread tales of my rebellion. My past life's memories, Jacob's cold confinement, Emily's cruel laughter, my parents' absence, drove me forward. I had to find Jason, uncover the truth of his heart, and reclaim the love my family had stolen. As I ran, the watch gleamed in my hand, a beacon of hope amidst the shadows of deceit, promising a future I would fight to make mine. The fields of Riverfield village stretched before me, their golden rice stalks swaying under the 1975 summer sun. My heart raced as I clutched the silver pocket watch, its weight a lifeline to the truth my family had buried. I, Anna Miller, had just fled our home, where my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, and my sister Emily, tried to bind me to Jacob Walker, a man whose love for Emily had turned my past life into a nightmare of confinement and betrayal. Reborn with memories of my death, bleeding out as Emily sneered and my parents abandoned me, I had snatched the watch from Emily, exposing her lie that Jason Chen, the city youth who loved me, had chosen her. Now, driven by a fierce need to reclaim the love stolen from me, I ran toward the village fields, where Jason worked, determined to rewrite my fate. Riverfield's traditions weighed heavily. In this rural corner of China, where the hukou system tethered us to the land, love was a luxury, marriages arranged by parents to secure alliances or labor. Jason, sent here as part of the government's city youth program, was an outsider, his urban manners and handsome features sparking distrust. Village aunties whispered he was a flirt, a city boy toying with girls before returning to his modern world. Yet for 3 years he had pursued only me, bringing wildflowers, helping with chores, his quiet devotion defying the gossip. In my past life, I believed the rumors, letting my family's lies about his watch sway me to marry Jacob. Now, reborn, I saw Jason's heart clearly, and the pain of losing him fueled my steps. I reached the edge of the fields, my breath ragged, the watch glinting. Jason stood among the rice stalks, his white shirt crisp despite the dust, his sharp features softened by a frown as he swung a sickle. The village girls often lingered nearby, hoping for a glance, but he ignored them, his blunt rejections earning him a reputation for arrogance. I hesitated, the weight of my past life's mistakes pressing down. What if he doubted me now, after my family's deception? But the memory of his kindness, carrying my firewood, waiting for me by the river, pushed me forward. "Jason!" I called, my voice breaking the field's quiet. He turned, his eyes widening with surprise, then concern. "Anna, what's wrong?" he asked, dropping the sickle and striding toward me. His northern accent, soft and warm, stirred memories of his past gestures, handing me bread, mending my basket. I held out the watch, my hand trembling. "Did you give this to Emily?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fear in my chest. In my past life, this watch, presented by Emily as Jason's engagement gift, had shattered my trust. Now I needed his truth. Jason's brow furrowed, his gaze locking on the watch. "No," he said firmly. "I gave it to your father for you months ago. I asked him to propose on my behalf." His words hit like a thunderclap, confirming my family's betrayal. Robert had hidden Jason's proposal, giving the watch to Emily to trick me into marrying Jacob, clearing her path to the city. My throat tightened, the pain of their lies mingling with relief. Jason hadn't forsaken me. He had loved me all along. "I'm sorry," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes, not from sorrow but from the weight of my past blindness. They lied to me, kept us apart. Jason stepped closer, his hand hovering as if to comfort me, then falling, respectful of village norms that frowned on public affection. "I thought you didn't want me," he said, his voice low, pained. "Your father said you preferred a villager, that I wasn't serious." The hurt in his eyes mirrored my own, a shared wound from my family's schemes. In Riverfield, marriages were banquets, not legal bonds, but I knew a city man like Jason valued registration, a modern act rare in our village. "Let's register our marriage," I said, the words bold, defying the matchmakers and parental decrees that ruled our world. "Tomorrow, at the town office." Jason froze, his eyes searching mine as if testing my resolve. He had chased me for years, braving gossip, yet I had kept my distance, bound by tradition. Now my certainty shook him. "Anna, are you sure?" he asked, his voice trembling with hope. I said, balling my fists, the watch warm in my palm. I won't let them steal you again. The memory of my past life, Jacob's cold grip, Emily's cruel smile, strengthened my resolve. Jason's face broke into a smile, rare and radiant, like the sun after a storm. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine, a cautious touch that sent warmth through me. "Tomorrow morning, meet me at the village entrance," he said. "I'll be there." His promise was a vow, a contrast to Jacob's indifference, a balm to my scarred heart. As we stood in the field, the village's eyes seemed to watch, farmers pausing, girls whispering from afar. In my past life, I feared their judgment, letting it drown my love for Jason. Now, reborn, I felt a flicker of freedom. I nodded, clutching the watch, ticking a countdown to a new life. "Thank you, Jason," I said softly, the words carrying the weight of my gratitude and love. He smiled again, his presence a shield against the village's chains. As I turned to leave, the fields glowed golden, and for the first time, I believed I could escape the fate my family had woven, hand in hand with the man I should have chosen long ago. The twilight sky over Riverfield village glowed amber, casting long shadows across the dirt paths as I crept through our family's backyard. It was the evening of my rebirth in 1975, hours after I, Anna Miller, had fled our home, clutching the silver pocket watch that exposed my family's betrayal. My parents, Robert and Linda Miller, and my sister Emily, had schemed to wed me to Jacob Walker, a villager whose love for Emily had trapped me in a past life of confinement and death. Reborn with memories of that agony, bleeding out as Emily sneered, I had vowed to rewrite my fate. After confronting Jason Chen, the city youth who truly loved me, and securing his promise to marry, I now faced a final hurdle, breaking my engagement to Jacob. The weight of my past life's suffering drove me to act, to sever the chains my family had forged. In Riverfield, where the hukou system bound us to the land and parental decrees shaped marriages, defying a betrothal was scandalous. The Walker's gift, 50 yuan and 3 packets of candy, sealed a pact, and returning it was a bold rejection. As darkness settled, I slipped into my parents' bedroom, the air heavy with the scent of linseed oil and dust. My heart pounded as I rummaged through their closet, finding the household registration book, a critical document for legal marriage, and the betrothal gifts hidden in a cloth bundle. I tucked them into my skirt, the candy packets crinkling softly, and stole back into the night. Each step toward Jacob's house was a rebellion against the village's traditions, a step toward freedom. Jacob's home loomed ahead, a 3-story brick structure that stood out in Riverfield's sea of mud-walled huts. Its imposing silhouette stirred memories of my past life, locked doors, dim rooms, Jacob's cold commands. I shivered, not from the evening chill, but from the echo of his indifference, his hands that never touched me with kindness. In my past life, he had confined me, using me to bear children while secretly sending money to Emily. Now, reborn, I would face him, not as a victim, but as a woman reclaiming her life. I knocked, the sound sharp in the quiet, my resolve steeling against the fear in my chest. The door swung open, revealing Jacob, his broad frame filling the threshold. His black tank top strained against his tanned muscles, his deep-set eyes narrowing as he recognized me. "Anna?" he said, his voice gruff, tinged with suspicion. "What are you doing here? We're not married yet." His tone carried the arrogance of a man who already saw me as his, a mindset rooted in Riverfield's patriarchal norms. In my past life, his control began with such words, escalating to bans on speaking to others, then leaving the house. I swallowed, my hand tightening around the bundle. "I'm here to return this," I said, placing the 50 yuan and candy packets on the table. The coins clinked, the sound final. "Let's break off the engagement." Jacob's face darkened, his jaw clenching as he crushed a piece of corn in his hand, a remnant of his dinner. "What did you say?" he growled, stepping closer, his presence looming. My heart raced, but I stood my ground, the memory of my past life's suffering, his neglect, my death, arming me with courage. "Emily loves you," I said, my voice steady. "She called you capable, gentle, the ideal husband. Marry her instead." The words echoed Emily's praises from my past life, when she convinced me Jacob was my match, hiding her affection for him. Now, I turned her deception against her, offering Jacob the truth he had once pursued. His eyes widened, a flicker of surprise breaking his scowl. In my past life, Emily had persuaded him to marry me under our parents' arrangement, but I never knew what lies she told to sway him. My words struck a chord, stirring his buried feelings for her. He stared at me, unblinking, the silence heavy with his conflict. "Don't regret this," Jacob muttered, his voice low, forced through gritted teeth. He stepped back, slamming the door in my face, the thud echoing like a gavel. I exhaled, my knees trembling, the weight of my past life's fear lifting. I had faced the man who haunted my nightmares and walked away free. The village path stretched before me, lit by the rising moon, and I felt a surge of triumph. I had broken the engagement, redirecting Jacob to Emily, who craved him yet schemed to escape. My family's plan to cage me had crumbled, and I was one step closer to Jason, to the life I deserved. As I turned, I saw Jason waiting under a tree, his silhouette a quiet promise. Unlike Jacob's, his presence was a comfort, not a threat. "I returned the gifts," I said, walking to him, my voice soft but firm. "It's done." His eyes, warm with relief, met mine, and he nodded, his hand brushing my arm, a gesture of trust. My actions would spark whispers in Riverfield, where gossip could ruin a woman, but I cared little with Jason by my side. The watch in my pocket ticked softly, a reminder of our tomorrow, when we would register our marriage and leave this village's chains behind. The morning sun blazed over Riverfield village, its light glinting off the dirt paths winding through rice and millet fields. It was 1975, and I, Anna Miller, rode on the back of Jason Chen's bicycle, the silver pocket watch tucked safely in my pocket. My heart thrummed with purpose, fresh from breaking my engagement to Jacob Walker, the man who, in my past life, had confined me while loving my sister Emily. Reborn with memories of that betrayal, dying as Emily sneered and my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, abandoned me, I had defied their scheme to wed me to Jacob, securing Jason's promise to marry me instead. As we pedaled toward the town to register our marriage, a legal act rare in a village ruled by banquets and matchmakers, I felt the weight of my rebellion against Riverfield's traditions. In 1975, China, the hukou system chained families to their villages, and marriages were alliances forged by parents, sealed with gifts like the 50 yuan and candy I had returned to Jacob. My defiance, refusing Jacob and choosing Jason, a city youth distrusted for his urban ways, would spark gossip in Riverfield, where women were expected to obey. Yet the pain of my past life, where my family's lies cost me everything, fueled my resolve. Jason's steady pedaling, his crisp white shirt damp with effort, reminded him of his love, a stark contrast to Jacob's cold control. As we neared my family's home, a crowd gathered outside, their murmurs rising like a swarm of bees, signaling trouble. Villagers clustered around our yard, their faces alight with curiosity. "Jacob's here to propose to Anna," one shouted, mistaking the scene. "The Walkers always get the best matches," another chimed. My stomach twisted. They expected a traditional betrothal, a banquet to cement my fate with Jacob, unaware I had broken it off. Jason slowed the bike, his jaw tightening as he scanned the crowd. I dismounted, my hand brushing his for courage, and pushed through the throng. Jacob stood at the yard's center, his broad frame imposing, holding a handkerchief, Emily's, I realized, from their secret exchanges in my past life. Robert, my father, stood beside him, his smile forced, his eyes darting nervously. Linda hovered nearby, wringing her hands, while Emily lingered at the edge, her braid swinging, her expression unreadable. The crowd parted as Jacob's voice boomed, "Mr. Miller, I'm here to propose. I want to marry your younger daughter, Emily." Gasps rippled through the villagers, their whispers turning to shock. "Emily, not Anna," one muttered. In my past life, Emily had loved Jacob but manipulated me into marrying him to secure her city escape with Jason. My redirection of Jacob to her had forced their hidden bond into the open. Emily's face paled, her eyes wide with fear, but Jacob stepped forward, holding up the handkerchief. "This is hers," he said. "We've been close for a while. Please, give us your blessing." His voice, though gruff, carried a sincerity I hadn't expected, a remnant of the love he once showed her. Robert stammered, "Emily's too young," but Jacob cut him off, his gaze firm. The crowd's murmurs grew, piecing together the scandal, Jacob and Emily's secret, my refusal, the Walkers' shift. I felt a surge of vindication, their deception unraveled before Riverfield's eyes. Jason stepped beside me, his presence steady, carrying shopping bags filled with modest gifts, a new dress, sesame candy, his version of a proposal. "Mr. Miller," he called, his voice clear, cutting through the noise. "I'm here to marry Anna. You promised me her hand, but you gave my pocket watch to Emily and tried to wed Anna to Jacob. Explain that." His words landed like stones, exposing Robert's duplicity. The crowd's gaze shifted to my father, their respect for him, a village mediator, crumbling. Robert's face flushed crimson, his authority challenged in a community where reputation was everything. In my past life, I had cowered under such scrutiny, letting gossip silence my heart. Reborn, I stood tall, the memory of my death, Emily's cold laugh, my parents' absence, arming me against shame. I said, "You lied to us all," my voice ringing out, addressing Robert. "You hid Jason's proposal to trap me with Jacob, all so Emily could have him." The villagers whispered, their judgment turning from me to my family. Linda, desperate to salvage face, stepped forward. "It's a misunderstanding," she cried. "Jacob will marry Emily, and Jason will marry Anna. Let's settle it." Her words were a surrender, forced by the public reckoning. Robert nodded, his shoulders slumping, unable to argue under the crowd's scrutiny. The villagers dispersed, their gossip now aimed at my parents' deceit. Emily shot me a glance, her eyes flashing with resentment, but I met her stare, unflinching. She had wanted Jacob, yet schemed to steal Jason, and now her choices bound her. Jason took my hand, his touch warm, grounding. "We'll register today," he whispered, his eyes bright with promise. As we remounted the bike, the village's judgment faded, replaced by the rhythm of our shared future. I had faced the crowd, exposed my family, and won my freedom, a victory sweeter than any banquet Riverfield could offer. The late summer air 1975 hung warm and fragrant over Riverfield village, carrying the scent of ripening rice and wood smoke. I, Anna Miller, stood on the cusp of a new life, my heart light after dismantling my family's scheme to wed me to Jacob Walker, a man whose love for my sister Emily had doomed me in a past life to confinement and death. Reborn with memories of that betrayal, bleeding out as Emily sneered and my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, abandoned me, I had defied their plans, exposing their deceit before the village and securing the love of Jason Chen, the city youth who had always been my proper match. Now, with our marriage registered in town, a legal bond rare in a village of traditional banquets, I prepared for our wedding, a step toward healing the scars of my past. In Riverfield, where the hukou system tethered families to the land and marriages were spectacles of communal feasting, weddings were less about love and more about alliances. Jason and I chose simplicity, hosting a modest banquet in the village square, a single table adorned with wildflowers and bowls of millet porridge, steamed buns, and a rare treat of sesame candy. The handful of guests, mostly Jason's fellow city volunteers, chatted quietly, their laughter a soft counterpoint to the village's usual clamor. I had envied Emily's lavish city wedding in my past life, unaware it masked her scheming heart. Standing in a plain cotton dress, my hand in Jason's, I felt rich in a way no banquet could measure. His gentle smile, framed by the setting sun, promised a future free of the chains that once bound me. Jacob and Emily's wedding, held days earlier, was a stark contrast. The Walkers, eager to quell gossip about the switched betrothal, filled 10 tables with meat dishes, a display of wealth that drew every villager. In a borrowed silk dress, Emily smiled stiffly beside Jacob, her eyes darting as if seeking escape. The crowd whispered of her sudden marriage, some praising her luck, others doubting her joy. In my past life, I had been the bride at Jacob's side, locked in his brick house, my dreams crushed. Now, watching from afar, I felt no envy, only pity for Emily, whose choices had led her to the cage she once foisted on me. As night fell, Jason and I moved into his small volunteer house, a 2-room dwelling assigned by the village. Though modest compared to the Walkers' brick mansion, its clean, whitewashed walls and wooden floor felt like a sanctuary. Jason had added touches, a bookshelf stacked with novels, a vanity with a mirror and floral cream, a new wash basin, each a sign of his care. He opened a wooden box, placing a thick stack of bills and ration coupons in my hands. "This is my volunteer stipend," he said, his voice soft. "I saved it since I met you, Anna. It's yours now." I counted roughly 500 yuan to sustain a family for years, and my throat tightened. In my past life, Jacob had controlled every coin, leaving me nothing. Jason's trust was a gift, a step toward healing the wounds of that betrayal. That night, as we sat on the narrow bed, the lantern casting soft shadows, memories of my past life surged: Jacob's cold commands, the pain of labor, Emily's cruel laugh. I trembled, the weight of those years threatening to pull me under. Jason sensed my unease, his hand resting lightly on mine. "Anna, you're safe," he murmured, his northern accent a soothing balm. When I hesitated, fearing intimacy after Jacob's indifference, he didn't press. Instead, he kissed my forehead, his touch patient, tender, a promise of love without force. "We have time," he said, pulling the blanket over us. Unlike the brutality I had known, his gentleness began to mend the cracks in my heart, showing me that love could be a refuge, not a prison. In Riverfield, a woman's worth was tied to her labor: cooking, cleaning, bearing children. My past life had taught me to expect suffering, to see marriage as a burden. Now, with Jason, I glimpsed a different truth. A partner could share, not demand. As I drifted to sleep, the village's whispers faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of Jason's breathing. The 500 yuan in the box, the vanity's mirror reflecting my hopeful eyes, and the registered marriage certificate tucked away were symbols of a new beginning. I had escaped my family's trap, and though scars remained, this night marked the start of a life where I could heal, love, and dream, free from the shadows of my past. The autumn of 1975 settled over Riverfield village, painting the rice fields golden and filling the air with the crisp scent of harvested stalks. I, Anna Miller, stood at the threshold of a new chapter, my heart buoyed by my marriage to Jason Chen, the city youth whose love had freed me from a past life of betrayal. Reborn with memories of that tragedy, dying in childbirth as my sister Emily sneered and my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, abandoned me. I had thwarted their scheme to wed me to Jacob Walker, Emily's secret lover, and exposed their deceit before the village. Now, living in Jason's modest volunteer house, I sought to heal the scars of my past while embracing a future of my own making. Yet, Emily's shadow lingered, her choices starkly contrasted to the path I was forging. In Riverfield, where the hukou system bound women to labor in fields or homes, education was a privilege few girls pursued beyond childhood. Most, like me in my past life, left school early to toil for their families, their dreams buried under societal expectations. Jason, however, saw beyond these constraints. One evening, as we sat by the lantern's glow, he tapped a book on the shelf, a worn copy of a Chinese literature anthology, and said, "Anna, you're bright. Have you thought about going back to school?" His words stirred a long-dormant hope. In my past life, I had begged to return to school when policies encouraged it, but my parents refused, citing shame for a grown woman among children. Now, Jason's encouragement felt like a key to a locked door. I enrolled at Riverfield's small school, a single-room building where Miss Han, a city volunteer like Jason, taught with fierce dedication. Her sharp eyes and warm smile welcomed me, a rarity in a village where women's ambitions were often dismissed. "I was the first girl in my town to study past 12, she confided one day, her voice steady. They laughed, but I proved them wrong. Her story, rooted in defiance of rural norms, mirrored my own, strengthening my resolve. Carrying the school bag Jason had bought, I studied math and literature, my mind awakening with each lesson. The act of learning, forbidden in my past life, was a rebellion against the cage my family had built. One morning, as I walked home from school, Emily appeared at our doorstep, her braid frayed, her cheeks flushed. Bruises peeked from under her sleeve, stark against her pale skin. She limped slightly, a sign of Jacob's rough hand, now her husband. "Nice place," she sneered, eyeing the tidy room with its bookshelf and vanity. "However, it's tiny compared to our brick house." Her words dripped with envy, contrasting with her boasts about Jacob's wealth. In my past life, I had envied her city life, unaware of her deceit. Now, I saw her bravado as a mask for her trapped existence. Her marriage to Jacob a mirror of the confinement I had escaped. "Jacob feeds me meat daily," Emily continued, her voice loud, as if to convince herself. "You'll regret choosing Jason when he leaves for the city." Her words echoed the village gossip that once swayed me, but I remained calm, cracking sunflower seeds. "Those bruises look painful," I said, nodding at her arm. Her face reddened, and she snapped, "You wouldn't understand love." Her denial, paired with her visible pain, revealed the truth. Jacob's control, like in my past life, left no room for tenderness. I felt a pang of pity, but no desire to compete. Emily's envy stemmed from her choices, not my happiness. Miss Hand's lessons grew more intense, and her extra tutoring helped me master equations and essays. At night, Jason quizzed me, his patience easing the stress of learning. He said, "You're doing great, Anna," his northern accent warm. Unlike my parents' dismissal, his belief in me rebuilt my confidence. In my past life, I had been taught that marriage meant suffering, that a woman's role was to endure. Now, studying under the lantern's glow, I saw a different truth. I could grow, not just serve. The village's expectations, once a weight, began to fade, replaced by the thrill of possibility. Emily's visits became frequent, her excuses, missing me, needing to borrow salt, thinly veiled. I suspected she was probing, perhaps scheming again, but I had no time for her games. School filled my days with purpose, and Jason's love filled my nights with peace. The bruises on Emily's arms, her withdrawn demeanor, hinted at Jacob's tightening grip, a fate she had chosen by manipulating me in my past life. As I walked to school, my books heavy but my heart light, I realized I was no longer the obedient daughter or the victim of betrayal. I was Anna, a student, a wife, a woman reclaiming her worth step by step in a village that could no longer hold me back. The winter of 1975 cloaked Riverfield village in a chill that seeped through the wooden walls of our small home, but inside a warmth grew. I, Anna Miller, had reshaped my destiny, reborn from a past life where my sister Emily and her lover, Jacob Walker, betrayed me, leaving me to die in childbirth. At the same time, my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, turned away. Now married to Jason Chen, the city youth whose love I had reclaimed, I was no longer the obedient daughter bound by Riverfield's traditions. My days were filled with school, my nights with Jason's gentle support, yet the scars of my past life lingered, surfacing in nightmares that jolted me awake, trembling with the echo of blood and betrayal. In this season of frost, I began the quiet work of healing, guided by those who saw my worth in a village that rarely did. Riverfield, tethered by the hukou system in 1975 China, valued women for their labor, cooking, cleaning, bearing children, not their minds or hearts. In my past life, I had internalized this, accepting suffering as my lot, my dreams crushed by Jacob's control, and my family's neglect. Reborn, I carried the weight of that trauma, my confidence fragile despite my new life. Jason noticed my restless nights, the way my hands shook when memories of Jacob's cold grip or Emily's sneer intruded. As we sat by the lantern's glow one evening, he handed me a notebook. "Write what you feel, Anna," he said, his northern accent soft. "Let the pain out so it doesn't own you." His eyes, warm with belief, permitted me to face my fears, a stark contrast to the silence my family had imposed. I began journaling, the pages filling with fragmented memories, my past life's labor pains, the dim room where I died, Emily's cruel words, "You deserve this." Writing was a release, each word a step toward reclaiming my voice. Jason read only what I shared. His responses were gentle but firm. "You're not that prisoner anymore," he said one night, his hand on mine. "You're Anna, my wife, a student, a survivor." His words, paired with the notebook's freedom, helped me see myself anew, not as a victim, but as a woman with agency, capable of healing. At Riverfield School, Miss Han, my teacher and a city volunteer, became another anchor. A woman in her 30s with a sharp mind and a quiet strength, she had defied her village's scorn to pursue education, becoming a beacon for girls like me. One afternoon, she sat beside me as I struggled with a math problem. "I was 16 when my father said school was for boys," she confided, her voice steady. "I studied by candlelight and proved I could be more." "You're doing the same, Anna." Her story resonated deeply with the same rural prejudices I faced. She gave me extra lessons, her patience mirroring Jason's, and her belief in my potential began to replace the shame my parents had instilled. Jason's parents, May and Liang Chen, visited from City B, bringing a warmth that contrasted with my family's cold manipulation. May, a former teacher with kind eyes, shared her journey from a rural village to the city. Initially, she was terrified of electric lights, but she laughed and taught me to use the stove in our home. But fear fades when you learn. Her encouragement, free of judgment, eased my anxiety about my future beyond Riverfield. Liang, a quiet official, nodded approvingly at my schoolbooks, his pride in Jason's choice of me unspoken but clear. Unlike my parents' demands, their support felt like a foundation helping me rebuild my sense of worth. The nightmares persisted, but their grip loosened. One night, I woke gasping, the image of my past life's blood-soaked bed vivid. Jason held me, his voice a murmur against my hair. "It's just a dream, Anna. You're here with me." I clutched the notebook, writing until dawn, the words purging the terror. Miss Hand's lessons, May's stories, and Jason's unwavering presence wove a safety net, catching me when memories threatened to pull me under. In my past life, I had been taught that a woman's role was to endure, her pain invisible. Now I learned that healing was possible, that my trauma did not define me. Riverfield's expectations, marriage as suffering, women as laborers, faded as I embraced my new identity. Once filled with anguish, my journal pages began to hold hopes, studying literature, seeing the city, and building a life with Jason. Miss Hahn's classroom, May's laughter, Jason's love, they were my strength, proof that I could rise above my past. As winter deepened, I walked to school with a lighter step, my school bag a symbol of defiance in a village that rarely valued a woman's mind. I was healing, not just surviving, and with each step, I claimed a future where my heart, once broken, could soar. The spring of 1976 bloomed over Riverfield Village, the fields vibrant with new green under a sky of endless blue. I, Anna Miller, stood on the brink of escape, my heart alight with the freedom I had fought for. Reborn from a past life where my sister Emily and her lover Jacob Walker betrayed me, leaving me to die in childbirth, while my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, turned away, I had rewritten my fate. Married to Jason Chen, the city youth whose love I reclaimed, and strengthened by months of schooling and healing, I was ready to leave the village that had caged me. Word had spread that Jason, son of a city official, had arranged a car to take us to City B, a modern world beyond Riverfield's hukou system, which bound us to this rural life in 1975 China. Yet, as we prepared to depart, the village's pull, and my family's desperation, threatened one last stand. Riverfield's traditions, where marriages and lives were dictated by parental will, made leaving a radical act. Women rarely left without a husband's city hukou, and my defiance, rejecting Jacob, exposing my family's deceit, pursuing education, had already marked me as an outlier. Jason, carrying our marriage certificate and my school books, led me toward the village entrance where a sleek black car waited, a rare sight that drew a crowd of villagers. Their whispers buzzed, some awed, others resentful, recalling the gossip that once branded Jason a flirt. I clutched my journal, its pages filled with my healing from past traumas, and felt pride. In my past life, I had died here, voiceless. Now I walked tall, my hand in Jason's. The crowd parted, revealing my parents, their faces etched with panic. Linda rushed forward, grabbing my arms. "Anna, you can't leave," she cried, her voice shrill. "What will we do without you?" Her tears, once a tool to guilt me, now rang hollow. In my past life, she had ignored my pleas during labor, prioritizing harvests over my life. Robert, his jaw tight, added, "You're our daughter. Stay, and Jason can send money." Their words revealed their true aim, to keep me as their laborer, profiting from my city-bound husband. I yanked free, my voice cold. "You left me to die once. I owe you nothing." Jason stepped forward, his eyes sharp. "He said you can't cage Anna for your convenience," his northern accent firm. "You have another daughter. Let Anna live." His words echo the support that had helped me heal, cutting through their manipulation. The villagers watched, murmurs shifting from curiosity to judgment of my parents' selfishness. In my past life, I had cowered under such scrutiny, but now, reborn, I stood resolute, my journal a shield against their guilt. As we turned to the car, a figure stumbled through the crowd. Emily, her hair disheveled, one shoe missing, bruises stark on her arms. "Jason, you can't take her," she shrieked, waving a crumpled paper. "I'm your legal wife." The crowd gasped, their whispers exploding. Emily unfolded a forged marriage certificate, her name beside Jason's, a desperate bid to claim his city life. In my past life, her lies had stolen him from me. Now, I saw her act for what it was, a final grasp at escape from Jacob's abusive grip. I said you stole the registration book, my voice calm but cutting. You forged this, didn't you? Jason pulled our real certificate from his jacket, its official seal gleaming. Anna and I registered months ago, he said, his tone steady. Yours is fake, Emily. Check the records if you doubt it. The crowd's eyes widened, their gossip turning to Emily's deceit. Her face crumpled, and she lunged for our certificate, screaming, "It's mine!" Jason sidestepped, and she fell to the dirt, sobbing. "Take me with you," she begged, her voice breaking. "Jacob locks me up. He'll kill me." Before I could respond, Jacob emerged, his frame towering, his eyes dark with rage. "Can you run?" he roared, snatching the forged certificate from the ground. "You wanted the city, so you lied again?" He yanked Emily up, throwing her over his shoulder like a sack. She screamed, but the villagers stood back, muttering, "Husband and wife business." Their indifference had trapped me in Jacob's control in my past life. I saw Emily's fate as her own making, yet pity stirred. "You can leave him," I called, but she only wept, carried away by the man she had chosen. The driver opened the car door, and Jason guided me inside, his hand steady on mine. The villagers' faces blurred as we pulled away, Riverfield shrinking in the distance. My parents didn't follow. Their silence was a final surrender. Emily's cries faded, her forged dreams dust in Jacob's grip. I leaned against Jason, my journal on my lap, its pages a testament to my healing. In my past life, this village had been my prison. As the car sped toward City B, I left it behind, free at last, my heart open to a future where love, not betrayal, would define me. The summer of 1976 bathed City B in golden light, its streets alive with the hum of bicycles and the chatter of vendors, a world apart from the muddy paths of Riverfield village. I, Anna Miller, had left behind the cage of my past life, where my sister Emily and her lover Jacob Walker betrayed me, leaving me to die in childbirth while my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, turned away. Reborn with those memories, I had defied their scheme, married Jason Chen, the city youth who loved me, and escaped to this vibrant city, his hometown. Now, living in the Chen family's European-style home, I embraced a new life of education and freedom, my heart healing from the scars of betrayal. Yet, echoes of Riverfield lingered, tying me to Emily's fate and the family I had left behind. City B, in 1976 China, pulsed with modernity, its electric lights and running water a marvel to my village-bred eyes. The hukou system, which had bound me to Riverfield, no longer dictated my path, thanks to Jason's city registration. The Chen home, with its polished wood floors and glass windows, felt like a dream. Jason's mother, May, a former teacher with a warm smile, welcomed me without a trace of disdain for my rural roots. "I was a village girl once," she confided, her hands guiding mine to use a gas stove. "I learned to love the city's chaos. You will too." Her story, mirroring my transition, eased my fears of not belonging. Liang, Jason's father, a reserved official, offered quiet nods of approval, his pride in our marriage evident in his gentle questions about my studies. I enrolled in a city high school, a bustling place where students of all ages, some in their 30s, studied together, unbound by the gender divides of Riverfield. Girls laughed with boys, their notebooks filled with dreams of college, a concept new to me but thrilling. My classmates, curious about my village past, became friends, their warmth replacing the gossip I once feared. After school, Jason helped with my homework, and he showed patience while unraveling complex equations. "You'll ace the college entrance exam," he said, his northern accent a familiar comfort. His belief and May's encouragement rebuilt my confidence, which was eroded in my past life by my family's dismissal. One evening, a letter arrived from Riverfield, its creased envelope bearing my father's scrawl. My hands trembled as I opened it, memories of my past life, Robert's demands, Linda's neglect, stirring unease. The letter spoke of Emily. Married to Jacob, she had given birth the previous year, but his abuse had worsened, leaving her bruised and frail. "She can barely care for herself," Robert wrote. "We're old, Anna. Take us to the city." The words reeked of their old manipulation, expecting me to serve them as I had in my past life, laboring for their needs while they ignored mine. I set the letter down, my journal beside me, its pages a record of my healing from such guilt. Emily's fate, though tragic, was her choice. In my past life, her deceit stole Jason and led to my death. Now her marriage to Jacob, born of her scheming, had trapped her in the cage she once designed for me. I felt pity, not triumph. I wrote to her, enclosing money and a note with a lawyer's contact in a nearby town. "You can leave, Emily," I urged. "There's help if you choose it." Months later, a reply came from a neighbor. Emily had received my letter but stayed with Jacob, fearing the stigma of divorce in a village where women were judged harshly. Her decision, though heavy, closed her arc with agency, not victimhood, freeing me from the shadow of her choices. Feeling my turmoil over the letter, May sat with me one night, her hands folding laundry with practiced ease. "You can't carry their burdens, Anna," she said. "You've built your path." Her wisdom, drawn from her break from rural ties, helped me release the guilt my parents tried to rekindle. At school, I threw myself into literature, my essays earning praise from teachers who saw my potential. Friends invited me to study groups, and their laughter was a balm to the isolation of my past life. Jason, staying up late to review my notes, planned my college future with a grin. "Literature suits you," he said. "You'll tell stories one day." In my past life, Riverfield's expectations, women as laborers, marriage as suffering, had defined me. City B's openness, May's guidance, and Jason's love showed me a different truth. I could be a student, a dreamer, a woman with a voice. Once filled with pain, my journal now held sketches of my future university, a career, and a life with Jason. As I walked to school, the city's bustle around me, I felt the final threads of Riverfield's hold snap. Emily's choice, my parents' pleas were theirs to bear. I was free, my heart whole, ready to embrace the limitless possibilities of this new world. The summer of 1977 warmed City B, its streets alive with the buzz of progress, a far cry from the stifling fields of Riverfield Village. I, Anna Miller, had forged a new life, reborn from a past where my sister Emily and her lover Jacob Walker betrayed me, causing my death in childbirth while my parents, Robert and Linda Miller, turned away. With memories of that agony, I had defied their scheme, married Jason Chen, the city youth who loved me, and embraced education in City B, leaving Riverfield's hukou system and its constraints behind. Now, studying literature at a local high school, with college on the horizon, I stood on the cusp of a future I once thought impossible. Yet the shadows of my past life lingered, demanding closure before I could fully soar. City B, in 1977 China, was a hub of change, its open schools and mixed classrooms starkly contrasting Riverfield's rigid norms, where women were valued for labor, not learning. My days were filled with books and friends, my nights with Jason's quiet support. His mother, May, and father, Liang, had welcomed me into their European-style home, their warmth easing my transition. My journal, once a vessel for pain, now held dreams of university and storytelling. Yet nightmares of my past life, blood-soaked sheets, Emily's sneer, still haunted me, a reminder that healing was incomplete without facing the whole truth of my death. One night, as moonlight spilled through our window, I dreamed of my past life's end. I saw Emily and Jason in City B, living in the Chen home, but distant, their marriage a facade. Emily, manipulative, begged favors at her workplace, refusing Jason's suggestion to study and accusing him of disdain. She returned to Riverfield, rekindling her affair with Jacob in a cornfield, unaware I was pregnant, grateful for her city gifts. Those gifts, I learned, came from Jason, sent in her name to ease my suffering. After my death, Jason, racked with guilt, broke taboos to retrieve my body, demanding an autopsy. The truth emerged. Emily and Jacob had cut me open, staging a labor complication to mask murder. They were convicted and sentenced to prison. Jason, weeping at my gravestone in City B, engraved it, "To my beloved Anna, sobbing, I should have taken you away." I woke, tears streaming, the dream's clarity searing. Jason stirred beside me, his voice warm like jade. "Bad dream, Anna?" he murmured, pulling me close. I clung to him, his living warmth banishing the chill of my vision. "I saw it all," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Emily and Jacob killed me." "You tried to save me." His eyes widened, but he didn't question the dream's weight, sensing its truth. "You're here now," he said, kissing my forehead. "We're alive, together." His words grounded me, the dream's pain easing as I realized my rebirth had undone that tragedy. In my past life, I had believed Emily's lies, thinking Jason rejected me when she showed him the pocket watch. I knew he had loved me, marrying her only to honor my supposed wish. The dream revealed his grief, his fidelity, and the justice served against my betrayers. It was a final gift, closing the wound of my past. I wrote it in my journal, and the pages are now a bridge between lives, not a cage. If I were gone, I asked Jason, my voice soft, what would you do? He grinned, teasing. Please find a new girlfriend and give her your jewelry. I laughed, swatting him playfully, but his eyes, deep as ink, turned serious. I'd live to 100, Anna, with you. My high school days buzzed with promise. Teachers praised my essays, classmates shared dreams of college, and Jason planned my university path, his late-night notes a testament to his faith. One evening I asked, aren't you afraid I'll meet someone else at college? In City B, I had seen classmates date freely, a freedom foreign to Riverfield. Jason brushed my nose, smiling. I love you, Anna. You can talk to anyone, be anyone. You won't leave me. Unlike Jacob's control, his trust was love that freed, not confined. My nose stung with gratitude, the dream's weight lifting. Real love, I learned, was support, not chains. As summer ended, I was accepted into a local university to study literature, and my journal was a map of my journey from victim to dreamer. The dream had closed my past, revealing Emily and Jacob's punishment, Jason's devotion. I sent no more letters to Riverfield, letting Emily's choice and my parents' silence fade. City B's lights, May's laughter, Jason's warmth, they were my home. In my past life, Riverfield had stolen my voice. Now, reborn, I stood ready to write my story, my heart full, my future boundless, anchored by a love that would last a lifetime.